So, let's talk about, Rick, what this stuff is capable of doing. So, it is kind of like the oral form of Methasterone, but man, it is nothing like Methasterone when it comes to what you're going to experience on it and what kind of gains you're going to get. Like Methasterone, it's going to give you dry gains. There's not going to be an aromatization. You don't got to worry about estrogenic side effects, but you do have to worry about androgenic side effects. Really, really bad. We'll talk about the side effects in a bit because that is an amazing thing with Superdrol. But guys, you can run Superdrol 4, 5, 6 weeks. If you can make it 6 weeks, I sure as hell could not on it. I could only last like 3 weeks on the stuff. But you're going to gain a lot of fucking dry muscle. You're going to gain a lot of strength. I mean, the strength, let's say you're at a plateau. You're at 300 pounds on your bench. You've been stuck there for like 6 months. You can't break through that plateau. You go on Superdrol, 2 weeks after you start taking Superdrol, you're going to break that plateau. You're going to smash that plateau on the stuff. Nothing gives you more strength in a short amount of time of any of the main steroids like Superdrol will. So you can expect all your lifts across the board to go up. Rick, I'm sure you've used it. What have been your experience with it? Because I know with me, I was stuck at a plateau, I can remember, and I couldn't break that plateau. I was like, man, I'm never going to break this plateau. I just kept pushing myself. And then I went on this stuff, and like 2 weeks later, not only did I break my plateau, I blew my plateau. I increased my bench press like 25, 30 pounds that fast.
Oh, absolutely. The methyl group changes the way the steroid works completely. So although it's very similar to Methasterone on paper, the way it acts completely different than Methasterone. Superdrol it's a very versatile steroid. It's one of those steroids that you can use bulking or you can use cutting. It's similar to Trenbolone in the fact that if you eat enough on it and you train like you want to gain mass, you'll put on some serious mass on it. If you want to cut with it, I wouldn't quite waste my time cutting with it. I cut with something else. I'd take advantage of that power to gain some good solid mass. But you can cut with it, and it'll just enhance the way your cutting cycle works. I like it. I like it for both cutting or bulking. And again, if you're going to bulk with it, you definitely have to eat enough on it. That's a characteristic it shares with Trenbolone, I think, is that you do have to, your diet will dictate how it treats you, how it works. You need to be on it about 2 weeks, I've noticed, before you really start to feel the results, the benefits on it. Around week 4, you're really wanting to start looking to get off of it. Most guys who run it standalone will do about 6 weeks with it. Guys who kickstart with it usually will leave it around 4 weeks, just as a kickstarter. So it's great steroid. If you can find good, legit Superdrol, it's going to be about one of the better cycles you've ever had. You just have to give it those 2 weeks to really get working, and then once it begins working, diet will dictate what it really does for you.
So, cycling, a lot of you guys might be shocked. Oh, we're only saying run it 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks tops. Trust me, when you're on this stuff, you're not going to want to run it longer than 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, because it's so fucking toxic in your body that you're just going to feel like shit all day, and you're going to sleep like shit, and you're going to be cranky, and you're going to have a short temper on it. And it's just a very, very annoying steroid. So you're not going to want to stay on it much longer. I found what's interesting on this stuff is it's so fucking toxic that if you're running 20 milligrams a day and you up it to 30 milligrams, it becomes unbearable. If you up it to 40 milligrams, you feel like you're going to die. So the fact that it's so toxic that between just 10 milligram difference in your dosage, or even a 5 milligram difference in your dosage, makes you feel completely different on it. That should tell you how powerful this stuff is. So I recommend 20 milligrams a day. You could try going for 30 milligrams and see how you do. but you're not going to like it if you run it like that. Now, if you find that you can tolerate it at 20 or 30 milligrams and you want to go to 40, go for it. Just keep in mind that it's going to run your lipid health into the ground. Your cholesterol levels are going to be completely haywire. Your blood pressure is going to be through the roof. You're probably not going to be able to sleep very well. You're probably not going to be able to function very well during the day because you're going to be so fucking lethargic on it because it's wearing your body so down. So this stuff is nothing really to mess with at all. That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the side effects, by the way, because you can basically kill yourself on this stuff. If you overdose it and you run it for too long, it is so fucking liver toxic. Let's say you were to drink alcohol while you're on it or take another drug. Your liver values, I've seen liver values on this stuff 5-6 times above average. So you really need to be careful, guys. Do not fuck around with this stuff if you take it. Don't be drinking alcohol on it. Don't be taking other drugs with it, even like an aspirin. Don't do it because it's going to cost you. Some of the other little side effects, headaches. You're probably going to have headaches on this stuff. You might even have some stuff like heartburn, things that you may never even get because it's so fucking brutal on your body. It's so fucking strong and so fucking brutal. So it's not something you want to take too much of and not too long. Any other side effects that you have noticed with yourself or your clients, Rick, that I kind of missed, or side effects that you kind of didn't have that I mentioned?
You know, there is a hit or miss side effect that some guys get, which some guys reported lactating nipples. It's just a prolactin spike, it seems like. Not everybody gets this. Very few guys get it. And it's funny because when you think about Methasterone, right? Methasterone actually works as an anti-estrogen, but here it is, methylderstanolone, which is the methyl version of it, and it's actually causing some people, not everybody, to lactate. But yeah, it's actually a pretty toxic steroid. It's great with results, but it's fairly toxic. Back when Entugard was first released into the market, really late 2008, early 2009, there were several companies out there selling Superdrol, and our product just took off. Entugard took off because it was being sold to a lot of these guys buying Droll and Superdrol and all of the different versions of it that were available out there. And taking the Entugard 7 caps per day with 30 or even 40 mgs of Superdrol really helped guys not get those really bad side effects from it. Don't feel that rundown toxicity. And it was one of the reasons why hit the ground running and really hit it out of the park for us, is because a lot of these guys who were fans of some of these methyl hormones that were available at the time, they really noticed a big difference in just the way they felt, just the way their body worked and functioned when they were on the Entugard and not. The blood results, the test results, liver values, which is so much better for guys that were on the Entugard. And this is, that it was a big start to the product. To give you guys a little bit of reference for our Entugard product was the fact that Superdrol and some of these other hormones, prohormones, were available and widely used pre-2012 and some of them up to 2014. And those same guys were buying Entugard because it just went well. So all of those side effects, the liver, the blood pressure, the kidneys, all of these different side effects that specifically Superdrol gives you. There's everything, the 44 something ingredients we have in Entugard. They're all in there to help you combat all of those effects. So definitely, if you get your hands on some Superdrol and you want to get your money's worth out of it, run a nice 30 mg cycle, maybe bump it up to 40 mgs if you really want to. Entugard definitely will keep you out of trouble and keep you from getting bogged down with toxicity.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Superdrol is it's cheap. You can literally run 4 weeks of this stuff for like $50. It's so fucking cheap. I can remember back in the day, Superdrol, they used to sell a bottle of it that would last you a month. What was it, like 60, $65, Rick? That's it.
Around there, 60, yeah, about 60,
Yeah.
65 bucks. There was so much made around that day. There was so much of it made that I'm pretty sure that some that is getting on the market now, it's probably powders that were made, pre 2012, 2014, pre that time. There was just a lot of it made out there. There was a lot of it floating the market, and I'm sure it'll be a good long while before everything that's available out there runs out.
So how often should you be dosing Superdrol? The half-life is 8 to 9 hours. So really once or twice a day should work just fine for you. How should you cycle it? My recommendation with something like this is run it by itself. If you start stacking stuff with it, the side effects are just going to multiply. Like I can't imagine running Tren with Superdrol. I mean, you would just feel like death on it. So it makes absolutely no sense. So me personally, I'd run it by itself. Worst case, maybe a small TRT dose of testosterone if you are already on TRT and you're blasting and cruising. You want to do a blast, so you just stay on your TRT dose of test, and you just run some Superdrol with it. But I don't see a purpose of running another steroid with Superdrol, even if it's a mild steroid, because Superdrol is so fucking strong that it's just going to swamp what the other steroid does. There's really no point running the other steroid. So I've always just run it by itself back when I used to run it, and I would basically get on it, and it was a lot of fun for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, I was like, I'm done with this stuff. I'm never touching this stuff again. So it's really, really brutal, guys. If you haven't tried it yet and you're experienced, might be something for you to try. If you are especially a strength athlete, or you just want to try something that's very, very cheap and that will give you really, really fast results. So let's say you just wanted to increase your strength in the next 4 weeks, Superdrol is a good option for you. And the stuff is really, really is basically idiot proof. I can tell you that. Anyone can use it and have success on it. So, aside from what Rick was saying, you definitely want to use the N2 guard while you're on it. That's a requirement. I would actually recommend 7 to 10 capsules a day of the N2 guard when you're on it. You don't need an anti-estrogen because it's not going to aromatize into estrogen. Other than that, what else would you recommend taking when you're on it, Rick?
Some guys will use Caber on it because, again, not everyone, but some guys will get a prolactin spike on it. HC Generate ES, if you're going to run Superdrol standalone, HC Generate ES, the ES version, it's probably the best thing to take with it if you're running it standalone, because it'll help you ward off that suppression so you don't suppress your own natural production, and you'll be fine and dandy, and you'll be able to keep more mass when you come off. And also the ES version has ingredients in it to help you lower prolactin anyway. So it will help if you do have a raise in prolactin from the Superdrol. You've got things in there like L-Dopa at a pretty high level to help you ward off some of the side effects from the prolactin. So HC Generate ES, if you're going to take it standalone, it'd probably be a great thing to take with it. And the N2 guard. And I would probably continue to run either classic HC Generate or just the ES version for a full month after I was done with the Bistro, because if you run it 4 to 6 weeks, you will get some suppression with it. So you do need to PCT if you want to keep your progress and keep your gains with it. So run HC Generate Classic or HC Generate ES a good 4 weeks after. It's like the perfect product for it, in my opinion. It definitely will work well with it for sure.
So this is interesting, Rick. Actually, both our steroid sponsors on the forum do carry Superdrol, but one is oral and one is an injectable. I don't know if you've ever seen injectables before. It is an oil injectable, 50 milligram per milliliter. And so I wasn't even aware it was an injectable form, but I guess they do make it in an injectable form. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. That's interesting. A lot of these methylated steroids, when they're injected into the muscle, the oil especially if it's oil-based. The oil takes a little while to get absorbed at the depot. And then there'll be a small depot of the crystalline hormone left there. So you do get a slower release off of the shot than you would if you ingested it. So although it does have an 8-hour half-life, that's kind of if you ingest it and it gets into your blood system that way. But if you deposit it into a muscle, it takes a little while longer for that hormone, for that depot to escape out of that muscle than it does to get into your gut when you ingest it. So you can inject it once a day, or you should be able to inject it once a day. What are guys doing with it, Steve? Are they injecting it once a day, or are they injecting it like you would base testosterone? Have you heard anything about this?
No, I have not. But if I had to do it, I would do it once a day. I think that I always took even the oral form once a day, so I don't see a problem.
Winstrol crystallizes too. That's why you only take a weenie shot once a day. Some guys used to take weenie shots every other day.
Yeah. So, let's talk about Superdrol PCT. Since you're running it a short amount of time, nobody in their right mind is going to run it longer than 5 or 6 weeks. And most of you listening who try it, you're going to run it 4 weeks and you're going to be like, I'm done with this stuff. So the question is, do you need a PCT because you're running it such a short amount of time? Now, you can confirm this with blood work, guys. Anytime you put exogenous hormones in your body, how many times have I said this on this podcast? You always need a PCT because when you come off your body, your HPTA, your pituitary glands are going to be shut down. So PCT is very important to give you a soft landing. Now, since you're running it such a short amount of time and it's an oral, it's going to be out of your system really quick. You don't need a huge PCT. You don't need a long 6-8 week PCT. So what I would do is I would run a 4-week PCT, a natural PCT. I'd run into Generate ES or into Generate Classic if you have a budgetary issue, okay? And if you do that, the entire cycle in PCT is only going to cost you not even $150. That's it. And you can, that will be a 4-week on and then 4-week off PCT. And you're not going to spend more than $150. Very, very cheap cycle on PCT. So if you have budget constraints, which a lot of you are going to have, with the economic issues that we're experiencing, but you still want to run a cycle, this is a good option for you if you want to do something cheap. But I do not recommend Superdrol if you are new to steroids. And that was kind of my beef back in the day because they thought the stuff was kiddie play, and it's not. It's a very, very serious anabolic steroid, guys. So take it seriously. And if you're a younger guy, I don't recommend it. I recommend it if you're experienced only. Rick, what do you think about that?
Well, there's so many other steroids that you can start off with. I mean, if you're a beginner, start off with Test. It should be even cheaper than running Superdrol. The thing about Superdrol makes it attractive is that you do get a lot of bang for the buck. Because there was so much of that raw powder made, there's so much cheap Superdrol floating around the market that it does have good bang for the buck. So if you get legit stuff, which you should for those prices, it's hard to overlook. But if you are a new guy, just make sure to have some Test. Go with Test. If you're going to go with an oral, start off with like every newbie with Anavar or maybe Dianabol as your first oral, and move on to Superdrol. Look, Superdrol is going to get in the way of your day, like maybe some other steroids won't. It'll make you somewhat lethargic. If you're not on point with taking your N2 guard, you're gonna have issues. It could make you one day, lactate out of your nipples. It has to some folks. And if you weren't taking your HG Generate ES with L-Dopa in it to help with prolactin, or if you weren't taking Caber, you're gonna freak out when you got milk coming out of your nipples. For old school guys like me and Steve, it ain't shit. We just know it's a fairly harmless prolactin spike. But you're going to get a lot of younger guys freaking the fuck out over it. So probably not the best steroid to take if you're a newbie. You know what I mean? Probably not the best steroid to take if you're a newbie, because even the prolactin lactation I've heard of guys getting even without a nipple tenderness, where something like Dianabol, your nipples will feel fairly tender. They'll feel on fire well before they start growing or you start really developing something pretty permanent there. So it definitely it's definitely a steroid for guys that know what they're doing. Also, if you're not on point with your diet, like you're really force feeding, you know, making sure you're getting enough calories in to get enough muscle, to get as much muscle as you can out of it. If you're not really doing the diet thing like an expert, you're leaving a lot of gains and a lot of progress on the table with the steroid. There's a lot of power in it that you're just not using. So you obviously don't. I wouldn't run it. I definitely, if you're a newbie, don't run it. If you're a newbie, you're gonna freak out over the side effects. You won't know how to handle them properly, and you probably won't diet well enough to take full advantage of it. So I'd start off with Test, Anavar, some of the easier ones to work with if I was a new guy started off.
Yeah, and you're not going to be to your plateau either when it comes to strength. So if you're pushing, let's say you're a new guy and you can only bench, like 225 pounds, 250 pounds, that's nothing. I mean, any natural guy who works hard in the gym can bench. I mean, I was benching that in fucking high school, and I never even came close to using steroids. I mean, I was benching that. I was fucking 135, 140 pound weight class in high school, and I was benching more than 250. So, and if I could do it, I mean, you can do it. I mean, a lot of you who are like 200 pounds, you should be benching over 300 naturally. So you haven't really, hit your plateau yet. Now, one of the dangers of going on something like this and then pushing yourself because I want to gain a lot of strength, you end up injured because you're going to gain so much strength so fast, you'll end up injured. So you want to make sure you really, really hit your plateau, even if you're taking this for strength. And then this way you can take things to the next level. But don't just take it if you're a new guy to lifting and you can only bench 150 pounds. You take it and now you improve your bench from 150 to 200 in like 3 weeks because you could have done that naturally over time. And then now you're going to blow out your shoulder, and then you're going to come back and be mad at Rick and I because you're like, why didn't you warn me? Well, we're warning you because I see this all the time. Guys, you have to put in the time in this. So we always stress that. So speaking of, economic situations, Rick, I mean, this sums it up. Is there anything you want to add? You want to add about what's going on right now in the world, or?
You know what? This is that's about it for our Superdrol today.